Imagine that you are driving down a two-lane highway late at night. The highway is lined with cow fields and fences. It's dark and there aren't any other vehicles around. Suddenly, you see a deer on the left side of the road, and he's standing very still, like he's trying to figure out exactly what he's going to do. In a split second, he decides to dart across the road in front of you. Now it's your turn to make a decision. Should you swerve to miss him and end up in a ditch? Should you hit him? Should you slow down and have a small impact? And if you do hit him, do you have car insurance that's going to cover your damages? Today I want to talk to you about car insurance. We want to discuss what is required by Kentucky law and a couple of the optional coverages that are available that could help you in this situation. And I feel like I'm qualified to talk to you about this because I am licensed in property and casualty insurance, and I have been selling insurance for the last 5 years. To begin our discussion, let's talk about what insurance is required by Kentucky law. According to the Kentucky Department of Insurance, all licensed drivers are required to carry liability insurance and personal injury protection. And the first insurance, liability, there are two components of this. The first is bodily injury. DMV.org explains that coverage when they state that coverage pays for the costs related to any injuries or fatalities that you cause as a result of an accident. Okay, you have to cause it and it's going to cover the other person. The second component of liability insurance is property damage. And property damage is once again explained by DMV.org as coverage for damage to other people's property that you cause. So the common denominator between these two coverages they are what you are legally responsible for, what you are legally liable for. Hence the term liability insurance. The second type of insurance that is required by Kentucky state law is called personal injury protection, or PIP. And according to DriveKentucky.org, PIP is paid by the insurer of the vehicle in which the insured person is riding in. All four-wheeled auto are required to carry this, and it's going to cover you as the driver and any passengers that you have. And it's going to cover things such as medical expenses, lost wage, and any similar expenses along those lines. And it applies. It's going to cover regardless of who's at fault in that accident. You commonly hear that Kentucky is referred to as a no-fault state, and this is why. Because regardless, if you are in a car accident and you are driving, your PIP, or personal injury protection insurance, is going to cover it regardless if you're at fault or the other person's at fault. If it's a deer, no matter what, if you slide off ice, anything that happens like that, if you have injuries, it's going to cover it first. So the second, so now that we've discussed what coverages are required by law, let's talk about just a couple of optional coverages. And the first one we're going to discuss is called collision. And according to shelterinsurance.com, collision insurance is going to cover physical damage to your car when you are in an accident, regardless of who is at fault. Unlike mandatory liability insurance, collision is going to cover damages to your vehicle. And anytime that you collide with a ditch, a telephone pole, a fence, another car, regardless of who is at fault, is going to cover physical damage to your vehicle. And the second type of insurance that we're going to talk about is called comprehensive. Shelter insurance again states that comprehensive covers physical damage to your own vehicle and is caused by things other than collision. They include things like hail, theft, fire, wind, lightning, hitting a deer or a person. All those things are going to be covered underneath comprehensive insurance. Now, for both of these coverages, they are different from liability in the fact that they have a deductible. And basically what that means is that you are agreeing to pay a deductible out of pocket if you were to have a claim, such as if you have a $500 deductible and you hit a deer and your total bill is $5,000, then you would be responsible to pay $500 for your deductible, and then the insurance would pay $4,500. Okay? And it only pays up to the value of your car. So if you have a car that's only worth $2,000 and that's all, they will only pay $1,500 if you've got a $500 deductible. It is also important to note that the deductible the deductible applies to each claim. So if you have multiple claims in 1 year, you would be hit by that deductible in each claim, each occurrence. It's not through policy period. So now that we've talked about the required coverages and just a couple of the optional coverages, let's look at what would apply in our situation that we talked at the beginning. What would happen if you swerve to miss the deer and end up in the ditch? Well, a couple of coverages. If you hit somebody else's property, your liability property damage is going to apply. If you get hurt, your PIP is going to apply. And if your vehicle is damaged, your collision is going to apply. Now, what happens if you actually hit the deer? Well, once again, if you bounce off the deer and end up in someone's yard, it could be property damage. If you get hurt, it would be PIP. And if you actually strike the deer first, it'll be comprehensive. So, in summary, we have talked about the coverages that are required by Kentucky law, and we have discussed 2 optional coverages as well. We have discussed what bodily injury and property damage, what they cover, and then we have discussed PIP coverages and what is required by law in terms of that one. So, and a final note, please just remember that the best person to talk to about your insurance needs is your agent. They're going to be the most knowledgeable. Every company is different. And remember that the optional coverages are not suitable for everyone. Thank you.